if you don't take the works on offer, well, I think the taxpayer has a right to say that we will then take your benefit away from you for a short period, and if you continue, a little bit longer. So in other words, saying, yes, we'll help you, yes, work pays, and if work's there and work's available and you're offered a job, you must take it.
Well, that's the formerly quiet man, the man with the omnipresent frog in the throat, Ian Duncan Smith, who has now metamorphosed from the most disastrous leader of the opposition in modern political history to the man with the axe that he's now taking to the welfare system. Some people support it. Some people are feeling the pain. Let's hear from Christine in Glasgow, who may be one of the latter. Christine, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Good evening, George.
Good evening to you.
Yes. I'm a registered blind person, right enough, and I can't go out without my son and be near as the eyes. And listening to some of the calls the other night there, it was absolutely heartbreaking, you know. You know, cutting us all down to zero is absolutely ridiculous, creating homelessness and everything else. I think it's a disgrace. But, pardon me, we feel as if we're being demonised, you know. It's absolutely awful. And it's not our fault if we're blind, but, you know, or disabled, and we feel that when people call us scroungers and one thing and another, they should think of themselves. They might be in that position themselves one day, George.
Indeed, but for the grace of God, go them. But some people know the price of everything and the value of nothing, Christine. That's not suggesting that Gavin Poole, my guest tonight, is one of those, but he is the Executive Director of the Centre for Social Justice. I think it would be fair to call it a rightward-leaning think tank, and he's a big supporter of Duncan Smith's reforms. So we're grateful to him for coming on and speaking up for them tonight. Gavin, I can't get you for some reason. I'll wait a minute or two for my friends to fix that. Are you there, Gavin?
I can hear you.
Yes, can you hear me, my friend?
I can indeed.
I hope I didn't traduce the Centre for Social Justice by describing it as a rightward-leaning one.
Yep.
It's all right? Cool?
That's fine. That's
okay.
absolutely fine.
Now, you heard the lady, Christine, in Glasgow. She's blind.
Yes.
She feels that these reforms and the coverage of them demonises people like her. She talked about the homelessness which is going to be created by these changes, which is in the impact statement, so it's acknowledged by the government that there will be an increase in homelessness as a result of these changes. And it's all to save £18 billion over 4 years, if they manage to save it, which is, by my reckoning, just over £4 billion per year. In the context of more than £100 billion per year, avoided by the richest people in the country, don't you think it's a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut?
No, I think we're confusing a couple of issues here. I think the key point, which is missed by many commentators which are trying to demonise the reforms, is the fact that at the moment, someone who gets a job, who wants to work, who moves off of benefits into employment, is actually worse off. And what our research showed is that's a massive disincentive for someone to move from welfare support into work. And there's people out there who, they want to work, they don't want to live on benefits. And what this reform does, and the work that we published in Dynamic Benefits, which was kind of the precursor to this welfare reform, means that someone entering into work from the welfare benefit will actually end up with more pounds in their pocket. And that must be a good thing, that someone entering into the workplace knows they don't have to go and sit down with Job Centre Plus, they don't have to go and sit with their worker or their agent to say, am I going to be worse off, am I going to be better off? It's going to be known. You are going to be better off with these welfare reforms. As you enter into work, you have more pounds in your pocket. And I think that's the key.
How many more pounds, Gavin?
Well, the taper rate which this government has chosen is 65%. And there's this whole issue, people on benefits understand that as you move into work, then different benefits are taken off at different rates. Some are 100%, some are 50%, some are 60%, all at different, some are gross, some are net. It's very, very complex, very, very confusing. What this universal credit does is mean that as you enter into work, it's a 65% take rate. So what that's actually meaning is that your benefits reduce for every pound earned at 65 pence in that pound of benefit, which is a lot. But our work...
Well, it's not a lot, is it? It's £25. I mean, I thought you'd give me the headline figure. I knew it, but I asked you it. But you avoided giving it.
No, not at all. You asked 20, you asked actually the question.
I said how many. I said how many pounds.
Hang on, George. You asked the question, which was how much better off. And actually, when we're talking about some people at the moment moving from work, moving from benefits into work, can lose 95% of their income. That's 95% tax. Now, I heard what you were saying about, the people who work, the richest. They wouldn't stay in this country for 95% tax. And what this system currently does, it penalises the poorest at 95%.
Gavin, before you elide these 2 points,
yeah.
We're not talking about them paying tax at 95%. We're talking about many of them paying no tax at all.
Absolutely. Who are you talking about? The benefits?
Well, I'll give you one. Shall I?
Go on then.
Sir Philip Green, a government advisor, advising the very government that's brought these reforms in, whose business, Topshop, BHS, etc., has been transferred into his wife's name. His wife moved out to Monaco, and no tax at all made on the profits of these highly profitable companies. And he's sitting in Whitehall with the very ministers who are out hunting disabled people to try and knock them off the disability living allowance. I mean, it turns your stomach, Gavin.
I can't comment about Mr. Green. I haven't got any of the information at all to comment on that.
I find that remarkable. I find that remarkable that you didn't know that.
I run a think tank. I don't look at individuals working in government or not working in government at the top end of employment.
You have heard of them, though, yes?
But the issue about you're talking about disability, and the point that Christine made, which is those people who can't work are seriously worried about, are they going to be taken off a disability living allowance or not? And for those people who seriously can't work, I mean, I think the government's made the commitment. If you can't work, you won't, you will be protected. But there's loads of evidence to show that people who are on receipt of disability living allowance have never, ever been formally assessed at all. I think what's starting to happen is people are calling them in to be assessed. They're stopping DLA, they're going back onto job seekers, and they're going into, and lucky enough, they're finding work. And this shows the fact that so many people are being put onto disability living allowance who actually can work. And I think if we can give people the hope and the aspiration to move back into work, that's a good thing to do. Now, of course, there's another question, which you're going to come at me about, which is, well, where are the jobs at the moment? But these are reforms here are for the long term. These are structural reforms.
Yeah, but they're starting now.
They are starting now. So let's reform the world as we agreed earlier.
Well, why don't we reform it and bring it in as the economy grows?
Okay. So
why are we bringing it in when unemployment is already at a mass scale?
Okay, so we'll say that we're bringing them in when the economy is growing. These reforms are coming in 2013. It's in 2 years' time, and I think we'd all hope that the economy is starting to grow.
Well, we'd all hope. We'd all hope, Gavin.
Absolutely.
But whether it is the case or not, the reforms come in.
Yep. Well, I think
can't you see the inequity in that? You have to
plan that the economy is going to grow, even slowly. But this reform, even at the moment, there's over 400,000 jobs advertised. Through Job Centre Plus, they are vacant at the moment.
Yes, but
the opportunities there for 400,000 people to move off benefits.
Hardly any of them, Gavin.
And if they move off benefits into work, with
Gavin,
reforms that are going to come in, they'll be financially better off, George. I don't know why you're arguing this.
Well, I'll tell you why I'm arguing it as you bring that subject up again. If the job is on the minimum wage, the net gain will be £25. So people are going out to work full time, and they're £25 a week better off. But, of course, they've got their bus fares to pay. They've got their lunch that they'll have to buy at work rather than eat what they had at home. So, in fact, the £25, after the fares are paid, after the lunch is paid, will be considerably less than £25. Maybe it'll be £20. Maybe it'll be 15. Maybe it'll be 12.5. Now, I don't think you'd get out of bed for £12.5 a week extra, but you're expecting the poorest people on the minimum wages. Now, you keep talking about the fact that it should pay to be in work. But, of course, the real problem is poverty pay, not high benefits. The reason that there's so little difference between working at the bottom on the minimum wage and living on benefits is because the minimum wage is so pathetically small, surely.
Well, I think if you're looking at entry-level jobs or if you're looking at low-level jobs, then there is a good thing about these reforms is that there is the whole of the traps surrounding tax credits, people working more than 16 hours a week. There was actually no benefit of doing that because you lost the tax credits. And all of that is getting taken away. And actually what the government is saying is that the entitlements will be more than £25 a week with universal credit. Now, as you enter work and as you choose to work more hours, I keep on coming back to this fundamental point of this, which is you will get more pounds in your pocket. And that was something that...
Well, you will, you're right. But just not many more.
Well, it's more than the old system. And you've got to start. And when we designed the dynamic benefit model, which was the precursor to all of this, just in a think tank, as I said earlier, we set it at a different rate. And of course, this government has gone down a route of a deficit reduction, which is fine. But if you get the system set up right, a government can go back and say, at the moment, for 65 pence will go loss in benefits as you move into work. You'll still keep the extra 35. But in time, that can be reduced. It has to be reduced. At the moment, we take more money out of people as they move into work than any other European country. That is wrong. And I think this welfare reform, from someone like yourself who's had two constituencies in a city environment, the main thing that people want to know when they're moving into work is, will I be better off?
Well, yes, they will be better off. But after their bus fares and their lunch, Gavin, not much better off. That's the problem. But they'll be working full-time to be not much better off. That's if they could get a job, but with mass unemployment stalking the land, the chances of that are, I'm sure you'd agree, very, very slim. But thanks for coming on as one of the authors of the precursor to the Ian Duncan Smith reforms. I'm grateful to you, Gavin Poole, Executive Director of the Centre for Social Justice. Well, tell me what you thought of all of that. 08717 223344, or you can text on 81089 for 50 pence plus normal sending charges, or you can email through the website at talksport.co.uk.